So welcome everyone. We'll give it a few minutes for everyone to join. We just started the webinar moments ago, and it looks like we are getting some good people signing in. Okay, it is 1 o'clock. It looks like we've leveled off on the attendees. I was able to rope in Ambika. So Ambika, if you can hear me, you can help us run the Q&A as we get to that point. Thanks everyone for joining us. Just some technical background before I let loose with Don. We don't run these presentations too often, so your patience with any technical difficulties are appreciated. But given the opportunities that work from home give us, we're getting a little more experience with Zoom every day. Don, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the NorZinc Update webinar. My name is Don McDonald, and I'm the CEO of NorZinc. And with me today are Scott Fulton, our VP Project Development, Peter Portker, our CFO, and Kerry Kubit, our Exploration and Project Manager. The call will consist of a PowerPoint presentation followed by a short question and answer session. To avoid unexpected access, all participants are hopefully muted. And on today's call, I'd like to update you on NorZinc's 2020 performance, as well as discussing the company's plan for 2021 and beyond. On to slide number 2. There may be a little delay on this. Slide number 2 is a typical cautionary disclosure regarding our forward-looking statements. There are a series of assumptions made in everything that happens in this world, and particularly because of COVID-19, things have been affected significantly by that throughout the world. But these are our estimates of what we foresee for the company going ahead in the coming year, and also some background on what happened last year. Slide number 3. As a reminder, NorZinc is developing the Prairie Creek Mine, an extremely high-grade silver, zinc, and lead mine located in Dene traditional land, the region in the Northwest Territories in Canada. We completed our feasibility study in 2017, and in 2020, we began a process to evaluate possible mine enhancement to significantly increase both production and reserves. The process culminated in a work plan to carry out the work necessary that was targeting a 50% increase in throughput and an underground drill program with the objective of increasing contained metal in reserves by up to 50% over the next 12 to 18 months. To obtain the data to potentially increase the reserves, an extensive underground drill program is planned to commence by the end of Q2 2021, and we'll talk about that later on. You can see on the slide our targets for the production increases. All these are compared with the original 15-year mine life in the 2017 feasibility study. And based on the feasibility study numbers, the targeted 50% increase in throughput should lead to annual production of approximately 3 million ounces a year of silver and approximately 300 million pounds or 135,000 metric tons a year of combined zinc and lead. As a precursor to the underground drill program, we commenced a silver-focused surface drill program in October, which culminated in hitting 4 intercepts varying from 42% zinc equivalent to 56% zinc equivalent, and with silver grades averaging around about 5 ounces per ton, and that's compared to our reserve grade of 3.6 ounces per ton. So very pleased with the results from that. This first stage of surface drilling is a relatively modest program. We completed it during the winter, and we plan to do some surface drilling in 2021 as well. But the most important part is the comprehensive underground drill program that we will discuss later on, which we plan to start finance permitting and COVID permitting in the second quarter of this year. Slide number 4. We have, as has been mentioned for the last few months here, we shifted our focus middle of last year back towards silver. This mine was originally built in the 1980s as the Cadillac Silver Mine, and based upon the reserves and the feasibility study, silver represented 15 or 16% of the revenue from the mine. But with current prices, silver is at about $27 an ounce. compared to about a year ago, it was about $16 an ounce. So significant increase in the silver value. It represents almost 30% of our revenue. So much more important as a part of the production profile of this mine. And you will see in this slide a table which shows either the market cap or the enterprise value of reserves and resources. And NorZinc is significantly undervalued. Two other factors that are important to note are the location and the study level of our assets compared to this list. This list is about 17 companies, including some larger companies in the 2.93 billion market cap, but most of them are sub 700 million. But it compares the reserves and resources of those projects and those companies to ours, and you'll notice that about 2/3 of those companies actually are base metal companies like us, where they produce the silver as a byproduct from the zinc and lead production. Many of those mines are located in jurisdictions with significant geopolitical risk, and also we have a higher study level in general than a lot of the projects that are on this list because we have already a feasibility study. So definitely we're undervalued with respect to other silver projects, and we clearly are trying to focus ourselves on the silver side. And as I mentioned just now, the silver grades that we got on a very short exploration program this year were quite significant. So we're very pleased with that process and the changing focus. Now on to a summary of the 2020 highlights. As you know, 2020 was a challenging year due to the global pandemic. However, despite the difficulties and delays, NorZinc achieved several significant milestones. At the beginning of last year, we determined that we could improve the project economics to mitigate lower commodity prices and increase costs. And in February, we announced a mine enhancement study with the objective of optimizing our mining design and potential throughput opportunities. We then completed the internal review and a work plan layout with an objective of a 50% increase in the design throughput and up to a 50% increase in the contained metal in the reserves. We're going to talk more about that later on with Kerry's presentation and with Scott's presentation, where they're going to explain the process that we're going to go through to get to those 50% increases in design throughput and in contained metal in reserves. Very, very positive view from our senior management as to the ability to achieve those targets. We're planning for an underground drilling program, as I mentioned, to commence in Q2, and that is a major part of the internal plan. It's through the underground drill program that we are able to we're anticipating to increase the reserves. So in addition, this year, we also discussed in October this silver focused exploration program. And as I mentioned, there's some very high level silver intercepts and pretty high level zinc equivalent intercepts with between 42% and 56% zinc equivalent. Those are spectacular grades. However, due to our severe weather, we had to pause the drill program early at the end of November. Throughout the year also, we worked closely with the government of the GNWT and local communities to ensure industry-leading safety protocols for COVID-19 were implemented for the safety of our staff and local communities. And we were able, after doing that, to start work on site in July. And we've been very pleased with the process and the collaboration with the local communities and the government of the Northwest Territories, which has a very, very good program to assist the COVID-19 procedures and protects the community. We also worked during this year, last year, on the renewal process for our operating permits, and we commenced the process of obtaining approval for the updated plans. So we went through a process of renewing the 2013 operating permits. We have received the land use permit renewal for in 2020, and we also got approval from the Water Board for the water license, and that's we're hoping in the next month or so to get the minister's approval on that one. So we're very pleased. We do have already the approval for the extension of the operating permits, but what we're also working on is obviously operating permits that will allow us to produce at 2,400 tonnes a day compared to our 1,600 tonne a day design, and obviously allow for this up to 50% increase in reserves. Go on to slide number 6. On the financing side, we raised funds through a private placement and a rights offering. In March, we closed an oversubscribed private placement of just under $1 million in very tough times, I may add. And in November, we closed a $9.5 million rights offering, which was very well subscribed in a tough market. So we were very pleased with that. And then in December, we closed a non-brokered $1.6 million flow-through funding to fund primarily the surface drilling we're planning at Prairie Creek in 2021 this year, which we're going to do to supplement the underground work. And we can do surface drilling earlier on this year than we can the underground drilling. So that will enable us to be getting results out during the summer months, which will be before we get access from the underground workings. We'll discuss our longer term financing plans later on in the call, and I'm now going to pass it over to Kerry, who will go over our surface and underground drill programs in more detail.
All right, thank you, Don. So yeah, just to recap, in October to November of last year, we did use our company-owned drill rig to explore an area immediately adjacent to the existing mine plan, where we had previously seen good silver, lead, and zinc grades. But by the end of the program, we confirmed the presence of the main quartz vein and 2 stockwork zones with some pretty notable intercepts within, a few of which are listed here on your screen. The MQV intercepted 4.26 meters apparent thickness of MQV material, grading 5.9 ounces per ton silver, with an overall zinc equivalency of 56.3%. Similarly, the stockwork intercepts that we have here, it did get some good intercepts between 3 and 6 ounces per ton, with zinc equivalencies above 40%. For context, our average zinc equivalency in our defined MQ mineral reserve is only 26%. This photo is actually a close-up of about 30 centimeters of one of the intercepts that we did obtain of the MQV material, and nicely shows off our ore mineralogies. Zinc is contained in the tan-colored sphalerite, lead and silver in the gray metallic mineral galena, and good silver grades actually in the dark reddish pyrargyrite, which you can see near the right side of that photo. You might have to look hard for it, but it's a good indicator of usually good silver returns. Hole 226, the follow-on hole that we did get a few hundred meters into it, but as Don mentioned, challenging weather conditions coupled with multiple days of downtime fighting those conditions did lead us to decide it would be the safest and best course of action to call the hole for now. The drill remains on the same drill pad and is ready to be switched on basically with minimal effort as soon as we're back on site again. But for full details on those drill results, you can follow up with our December 11th press release. Next slide, please. So with an eye on our 2021 and 2022 upcoming activities, NorZinc is in the advanced planning stages for this underground program that Don had mentioned, which we hope to start in the next few months. We've effectively determined that the best way to tackle the inferred resource, which is in blue on the right side of this long sectional view, mine site is on the left, the vein is near vertical, and our current mine plan is defined by the red and green areas. So by targeting the blue areas, we hope to bring in a lot of that inferred material, between 50 and 60% of it, into our mine plan through subsequent studies. This program, we would have to reactivate the existing underground workings, dewater the decline, extending it, and drilling 13,500 meters over 50 drill holes to convert that over and bring it into the mineral reserve. Thanks. Back to you, Don.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Kerry. Now I'd like to pass it to Scott, who's going to show us a few of the enhancements that are laid out for the plant for getting us to 2,400 tons a day.
Thank you, Don. So as we've mentioned in the presentation, 50% increase in throughput, giving us the 2,400 tons. I just want to show you a couple of the 3D images that we've received from Ausenco, who are our main engineers. I just want to show how advanced we are. We have really assessed the 2,400 tons per day into a 3D model. We've sized all of the equipment, but this really gives you a sense of what the mill building will look like. We've looked at the concentrate thickeners and the concentrate loadout towards the south of the mill building there. But I just want to give you a sense, these are preliminary schematics, but we've certainly advanced the equipment sizing and selection into our existing facilities, and we do have a workable solution, which is great to see. So let me just move on to the next slide, which will talk a little bit more about the internals of the mill building. So between the bay lines here, we do have new equipment that has been put in for the 2,400 tons per day scenario. So towards the top of the screen, you can see the lead and the zinc roughers. On the left side, you will see the regrind mill. We get the cleaners. There's a bank of 4 of them in the middle there. So that's the lead and the zinc cleaners. And then we've got the scavenger and the flotation area towards the bottom side there. This is a combination of existing equipment. We are using our existing mill, which is on the top right-hand corner of the screen there. We are augmenting it with a secondary mill. And as I said, the equipment has been resized, and it will be new equipment that will be put into the mill building for this increase in production here, as we see on the picture here. So again, this has been sized up. These are actual equipment sizing that we've put in here. So we've had a real good look at this with Ausenco. And like I said, I just want to give you a sense of the advancement in the design at this stage. Back to you, Don.
Thanks very much. Excellent summary. Yes, we did. Just to elaborate a bit on the work that was done during 2020, which was led by Scott. Scott didn't only look at the process plant, but looked at all aspects of the development of the project. And it was his ideas and his planning early on that made it possible for us to consider this increase. I mean, a 50% increase in throughput is usually a very substantial increase. But there are 3 different areas that we have looked at. There's the mine, there is the mill and process facility that Scott went through, and then there's the road access as well. There's those 3 elements here. The road access, pretty much very few, if any, changes necessary on the road side to deal with the higher throughput. On the mine side, and this was a surprise, the work we did with our consultants had concluded that the design we had underground was more or less capable of producing 2,400 tons a day, and actually had been restricted to 1,600 tons a day just because of the capacity of the mill. So we're very pleased with that. So very few, if any, changes on the mining side. And then on the process side, we already had in place a series of modifications that were necessary to turn the old mill into a new mill. And as Scott mentioned, we were able to make relatively modest changes to the process plant economically to make this very substantial improvement in terms of production. So it was a great effort and a great process that we went through despite the challenges of COVID, and hats off to Scott and his team for getting that done, as well as Kerry and his experience on the underground mining structure. So now look ahead. Now discussing the plans for the coming year and beyond. The target development schedule for the Prairie Creek Mine has remained surprisingly unchanged. If you look at our press release, back in May of last year, we had announced a schedule. We have made some small modifications to it, which we'll discuss briefly, but we are looking to be able to keep to our schedule, which is basically to be in production by the end of 2024. There are a lot of challenges in it, and those again were outlined in our press release and in our forward-looking statements, but it's definitely an achievable target. And the way we've done that is the plan is to commence the construction of phase 1 of the all-season road. We also call it a Pioneer Winter Road. It's a road from which we're going to do some geotechnical work, and that's planned to be done in Q1 of next year. There are limited construction activities planned at the mine site during 2022, and the bulk of the development is planned for 2023 and 2024. That's pretty much unchanged from the feasibility study, although obviously it's going to be 50% greater throughput. And then the commencement of operations at the end of 2024. Again, one of the good things is this expansion is not seen to in any way slow down the development of the project. So despite the extraordinary conditions we experienced in 2020, the schedule is still achievable. But on the finance side, and that's obviously critical, it was the company's target previously. We'd assumed that before COVID, we'd hoped that we would be able to start some underground work in the middle of last year, but that's not been possible, and that work is now being moved to Q2 of this year. The planning was then to do the financing at the end of this year, but the major financing has to be done after we've completed a updated feasibility study, and that's really only possible Q1, Q2 of next year. So that shifts it to having our major project financing being the middle of next year rather than the end of this year. But we are moving our major project financing to that point in time. But what we are working on right now is a financing whereby, and it's listed in our press release, and they'll possibly flow through convertibles, bridge loans, private placements, or most importantly, a potential silver stream financing to be able to fund this underground drill program, the updated feasibility study, and the construction of that Pioneer Winter Road, the phase 1 Winter Road in Q1 of next year. So at the mine site, our objectives over the next 18 months are to complete all the work necessary to target the 50% increase in throughput and an underground drilling program with the objectives of increasing contained metal and reserves by up to 50%. In order to attain the data to potentially increase the reserves, an extensive underground drill program is planned, as we discussed. And in some detail, what we plan to do is we plan to execute the underground drill program, continue the silver-focused surface exploration program, and also, frankly, focusing on silver underground program as well. Complete the updated feasibility study based on the new reserves and the increased throughput. Construct phase 1 of the all-season road, and continue discussions with the ultimate goal of finalizing agreements with the respective Indigenous communities. And as we execute these objectives, our key areas of focus will be the highest standards of sustainability, safety, and community engagement, which brings me to an exciting update. This month, Claudine Lee will be joining the NorZinc team as our VP of Corporate Social Responsibility. Claudine brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in corporate social responsibility that will benefit NorZinc greatly. She was most recently head of health, safety, environmental communities, and training at Dominion Diamond Mines, and her experience in the North will be invaluable to the company and the development of the Prairie Creek Mine. And Claudine couldn't be here on this call, but hopefully she's listening. Welcome to the company. We look forward to you joining us on February 22nd, and she is going to be a great addition to our team. So let's go on to slide number 12. So in summary, we're optimistic about the year ahead, our drill program, our silver focus, and the financing. Our project is on track to be the next high-grade silver zinc lead mine in Canada, and we have a strong management team who is ready to execute our plans. With Claudine's help, we will Claudine, I've been mispronouncing her name. We will lead the way in sustainability and community relations. We expect to see an increase in our market value as the program progresses further and the market adjusts its value of our company to account for not only our silver reserves, but also our mine enhancement program and the higher throughput and higher reserves. Thank you. I'd like to open it up now for questions.
Certainly. So if you don't mind, Don, I'll just jump in and kind of give up some details on how we'll do the Q&A. Don, I just sent you a quick text message just regarding a minor AV issue. There is a QA panel that will be at the bottom of everyone's screen. We'll accept questions through there, and then this is our chance to put Don in the hot seat. So feel free to submit your questions. I can see a couple of them already coming in. And I think it'll probably be Ambika, who is helping us co-host, at least on the question side, who will relay those questions to you directly, Don, either through text message.
Okay, I can see a message now. I presume it's from a viewer. So the question was back in the October webinar. You said you were reassessing drill results for gold in stockwork. Any updates? Yeah, I think we said that a bit later than October, but that's true. We did produce a press release with the gold, potential gold in the stockwork. Unfortunately, it seems as though that was an anomaly. We were all very optimistic about it, but on reassaying, the results were not repeated. So we've had a look at the gold, and it just doesn't seem as though there is a lot of evidence of gold in the stockwork. But, and this is, I think, a really important but, with the stock work, what we were most impressed with were the grades. We have a stockwork resource, which is, it's 1.3 million tons, compared to 5.7 million of the main quartz vein. And it's lower grade, but we have been getting grades, as Kerry mentioned, the grades that we have in those stockwork intercepts are significantly higher than the main quartz vein, let alone the old stockwork. So, yeah, maybe not so much gold in there, but lots of silver and lots of zinc. So we're very pleased with what we're seeing in the stockwork. Just we're missing the gold. Is there any possibility of getting government to pay for infrastructure costs re the road in the park? There is a program, and it's kind of a confidential program in the sense that it's done, on the quiet, although it's a public program. It's called the National Trade Corridors Fund. We're definitely a project that could be eligible for funding from that, and we do believe that we fit the criteria for that funding, and so that's something that we're looking at. And there is also the Canada Infrastructure Bank, which has been re-enlivened, if that's the right word, in the last few weeks here, which could also help us with the infrastructure, because infrastructure access and the access road is very critical for us. Actually, before I get to the next question, I should pass it back to Kerry. Did you have any more to add on that question on the stockwork and gold?
Not particularly. It's gold isn't, as we know, isn't something that we normally track that closely at Prairie Creek, because historical work on the matter suggests that there isn't. We're not as blessed with gold on our property as other deposits might be. But that being said, the silver grades still hold out. We don't have any concerns about the consistency of those results. But it's an interesting time for assay labs, and it's unfortunate the gold went this way, but it was a worthwhile exercise.
Yeah. There's a question here, which I'm going to pass to Scott. I don't know if you can see the same questions I get. Has management considered using dirigibles to haul out the ore?
I don't believe we have, but it's certainly something that I will have a look at.
I may have preempted you on that one. I think we have looked at it before your time. Yeah, we did actually look at that in the past. And the problem is that this is such a heavy ore. I mean, and I think I'm right here. The guy who did it has now retired, but I seem to remember it was something massive quantity of dirigibles that was necessary in order to take out the amount of ore that we're looking at, the amount of concentrate in our case, not ore. And we're looking at something around about 300,000 tons a year of concentrate with the new throughput being taken out. That is a lot to be flown out. Next question. Timeline for the surface drilling feasibility. Sorry, that moves amazing. Timeline for the surface drilling feasibility, and what are the 2021 team and work plan numbers? That's kind of a mixed bag here. I will kind of pass it back to Scott though. Can you see that question? It's a multifaceted question. Timeline for surface drilling, the feasibility study, and the putting the team together and the numbers of the team.
Okay, well, let's start with the surface drilling. The surface drilling activities we will be commencing, we'll really be undertaking it during the summer months here. So we will be mobilizing into site in May. So we can expect drilling to begin in May, and we'll be going all the way through to September before the weather starts turning. So that's really when we'll be doing the surface drilling activities. Feasibility study will be commencing around June of this year. So the beginning of June, and we'll be taking that all the way through to Q1 of 22. So over that 9-month window. The other questions were
just the team. I think putting a team together for that. the work?
Yep, I mean, in terms of planning for the surface drilling activities, this is an activity that Kerry and myself and a few of my team members are really actively developing at the moment, getting the team together, the numbers of personnel that we're required to support on site, the drilling crews, the underground exploration will be a Procon-driven led program. The feasibility study, we have the engineering teams behind the scenes really on standby, ready to go here. So it's really just a case of timing before we commence these teams off. But you know, we're well advanced in the planning and we're ready to go.
Yeah, and just want to supplement that in terms of the team, we have multiple meetings scheduling out over the next several years. The team hires. We actually had several meetings in the last couple of weeks where we went over with our own management and with our advisors on the staffing over the next few years. We obviously have to build a construction team as well as the early vestiges of an operating team being in production by the end of 2024, but we'll actually be starting to do mining in 2023. Again, financing, permitting, and COVID-19 allowing. But you know, this is a process that Scott's been through this a number of times with different projects. So we're all working together to put the team together. Next question, I'll just read it. It says there are 4 phases for all season. When will the entire road be completed? In my mind, the all season road is the catalyst that will launch this company into the production, right or wrong. The road actually is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Scott, but I think it's done in 3 years essentially. I wouldn't call it 4 phases. The first year is this Pioneer Winter Road. Actually, I'll let you, Scott, you know,
Sure.
answer the process that we're going to be working through and over the next 3 years in terms of the road.
So yeah, the road construction is really over a 3-year window. The first phase, or the first part of it, is this Pioneer Winter Road that we'll be constructing in Q1 of next year. So this time next year, we'll be putting in a Pioneer Trail, and that's really to allow us to finalize the geotech information that we require, the borrow sources and the depths of some areas of permafrost, allowing us to IFC the drawings. We then will get into construction of the full-blown all-season road around September of 2022, where we start on the final ASR alignment, and we'll be doing initial cutting into the slopes. That will then turn into a winter road during the winter of 22 to 23. And that will allow us to start bringing in our first lot of loads for the construction activities. So we're aiming at the moment to bring in 700 truckloads on that winter road around March of 23. During the summer months, that turns into, again, the summer construction on the all-season road. Turns into another winter road the following winter, so that's 23, 24. We bring in another 700 loads around March 24. And then we march towards the finish line, complete the all-season road construction, where it will be graveled, and that will be around Q2, Q3 is when it will be complete, the all-season road. So really, it starts with next year, the Pioneer Winter Road, and then it transitions into the all-season road through 2 winter road campaigns towards Q3 of 24.
And the last little bit of that question, which is, you know, is the catalyst to launch the company into production? Yeah, absolutely. The construction of the phase 1 of the Winter Road is the key catalyst. It is a key de-risking element of the project. And as I mentioned, we are planning, if things all work out, to start that phase, to complete that phase 1 construction prior to doing the big project financing. And that will help us in the financing side of the project. So I'm actually going to pass it to Peter just to elaborate a bit on how you see the financing working out in 2022. You know, what's going to happen in 2022 on the project financing side?
Yeah, so the question that I see is, will there be a royalty? So currently we have 2 royalties on the project, the 1.2% royalty with Sandstorm and a 1% royalty with Resource Capital Funds, which is our largest shareholder. The way, as we mentioned in our previous press releases, we're looking at all forms of financing, but I would say that the primary focus will be on a silver stream, on a debt financing, and or equity. So those 3 would be the primary focuses. So I would not anticipate us looking directly at royalties, but we are open to all forms at this stage.
Good. Yeah, and just, you know, in terms of 2022, so just going to the risking side here, the road access again is one of the risk elements. We already have an existing underground facility. We have an existing, have 5 kilometers of underground workings. We have an existing process plant, albeit an old process plant, which needs to be updated. But then you've got the risk element of the road, because previous access to that mine was through a winter road. So getting the geotechnical work done and getting the access out to the site all the way, the whole road is going to be completed in that period around about Q1 / Q2 of next year. That is really a plus from the bankers' side. We do anticipate having a significant portion of bank financing, project financing for this project. It seems eminently financeable from a banker's viewpoint. They're very concerned about cash flow in the early years, and this mine is blessed by having only a relatively small amount of capital being put in to develop the underground in the first few years of operation. So we have a pretty good, financial structuring and sculpting, as the bankers say, positive for this project. Next question was including the silver in the name of the company. Peter, we should have done that, shouldn't we? I think that's definitely on our list. I mean, when I joined the company, we changed it from Canadian Zinc to NorZinc, which is 2018. Little did I know that silver was going to be so important to us going forward. Right, so yes, definitely we're thinking about the name of silver, and we may do that in this coming year, because clearly silver is important for us. Next question. Says the ground level temperatures of the mine site have been -40 degrees C the past few weeks. Does your plan for potential all-season weather conditions? So I can't see the whole question. So do we plan for low cold temperatures, Scott?
Very much so. Yeah, it's in everything we do. I mean, working in the north, it's fundamental to operating, and the philosophy as we move into construction. So it's very much part of all of our plans is to be operating. And as I laid out over 2022, this time next year, we're going through the winter for construction of the phase 1 of the all-season road, and then we very quickly turn into 12-month operations. So it's very much part of the fundamentals of operating up in the north. And yeah, when we were shutting down the drill program, we were low -30s. So it's not new to us, and we've done it many times before. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and you also was mentioning the all-season. Well, I thought maybe all-season road, and we got the all-season road as well. I mean, the road actually benefits from the cold climate, doesn't it?
Very much. That's what we're looking for. So for the road, as soon as we start getting -20 and below, that's the optimum temperature for construction of the road, and obviously turning it into the ice road. So we're looking for the colder conditions, and we're very much relying heavily on the northern contractors who have got many years experience constructing these roads in these conditions. So the cold is what we're after, very much from the road construction perspective.
The next question is talking about our route out of from the mine site and where we're anticipating going, and the A2A, which is the if you're Canadian, it's the Alberta to Alaska, and if you're American, it's Alaska to Alberta road. Rail line. Yeah, we would really love the A2A to be in place. It would be amazingly ideally suited for us, but it's a long multi-year process. I hope they don't mind this, but we have had discussions with people surrounding that plan, and to get with the Indigenous support, we definitely support that rail construction, and it would benefit us. Without that, our plan has always been to go south, and it was originally going to Fort Nelson, and now it seems more than likely Fort St. John, just because of the quality of the rail line out of Fort Nelson. Yeah, the idea is to rail it into British Columbia, and then from there, sorry, not rail, truck it into British Columbia, and then from there by rail to the rest of the world. It says here, when will the first ore be sold, and when can we see revenue? So the current plan is that we be in production by the end of 2024. So the first revenue from concentrate, we sell a concentrate, that will be sold, you know, in the latter part of 2024. So that's when the revenue will arise. And just to give you an idea of the concentrate, so I mean, we're mining, you know, average is 8 to 9%, kind of reserve 8 to 9% zinc and 7 to 8% lead. Our concentrate will be about 58% zinc, the zinc concentrate, and the lead concentrate will be about 51%. Is that right, Peter? But anyhow, it's very substantially upgraded during the processing. And one blessing of this project, which is not quite well known, is that we do mine, and we convert these grades I just gave you into zinc equivalents. We're mining at about 23% zinc equivalent, but we go through a dense media separation process, and from that removes a significant amount of very low grade, essentially waste, and about 75% of what we mined actually goes through the main part of the mill. So the grades that actually get into the bulk of the mill are significantly higher than even the grades that we're mining at. So it's one of the real pluses of this project. I may have missed some questions. Did I not? No other. A suggestion came from the audience that we name the new company Silver Creek. That sounds interesting. But we will follow up on that one. Hearing no other questions, thank you very much, everybody. On behalf of all of our team from NorZinc, we really appreciate your support, and we are really looking forward to an excellent 2021 and 2022. Real, you know, prayers for those who've been affected by COVID-19. It is a terrible virus that has caused huge amounts of problems throughout the world. Northwest Territories was relatively lowly hit, but it has got into the Northwest Territories now. And one thing is a blessing, that the Northwest Territories does have a significant amount of vaccines, so a very high percentage of vaccination in the Northwest Territories due to the remote communities. And we were very pleased that is what's happening with the NWT, and you know, we're very pleased that we're able to carry on our work largely, you know, well, sorry, not largely, but completely in compliance with those requirements. It is going to be a challenge going forward in 2022. We can't really see the light at the end of the tunnel with regards to COVID-19. So again, we're just hoping that everything will line up for that. But we're very excited about the year ahead. And thank you very much for joining us.